And I believe we are live. So good evening, everybody, to Manhattan Community Board 4's double feature meeting this evening. Not quite as good as Barbara and Oppenheimer, but we're taking up June and July business tonight. A very robust thing and a very full agenda. Are we going to have this mic issue all night? I sure hope not. My name is LeFrancois, Chair of Manhattan Community Board 4. It is a great pleasure to be here in person on the Highline. Let's hear it for the Highline, ladies and gentlemen, for hosting us tonight. A couple of things I've missed, not to open the meeting by acknowledging, frankly, the luck that our community and city in the catastrophe that happened on 41st and 10th, and that nobody at this point is dead because of what happened. Very thankfully, we are lucky about that. Check. There we go. Thank you. Props to our first responders. I think there are a lot of things that we will learn as a full picture gets painted, but I'm sure many questions will be asked, and hopefully we get lots of answers. But right now, I can say I am incredibly thankful, and I think on behalf of all of us that it was a worst case scenario averted, thankfully. As I mentioned tonight, we're going to be taking up June and July. It's a long agenda. We also have folks signed up to speak in public session, over 20 of them. So we're going to be limiting remarks tonight to 1 minute per person. Given that we have a time limit on our meeting this evening, as friends of the Highline have to sort of, clean this place up and get folks moving on their way. It's also a complicated meeting. It's hybrid. We've got folks online. We're in person. So we do beg your indulgence and your patience this evening as we move things along. As is our custom, sorry, my notes are small and I'm standing, and usually I have 3 tabs going in front of me. As is our custom, of course, we'll have our public session run by our first vice chair, Jessica Chait, but we're going to start the meeting by me passing the microphone over to someone from Friends of the Highline to say hello. Yes, please. Sorry. And thank you again for having us.
Hello, mic check. Hello, should I take the red one? Hello, hello. All right, perfect. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for coming here and being with us. My name is Gabriella. I'm a programs manager at the Highline. I just want to plug a couple of our events. We also have flyering outside. So if you want to take a look, take something home, you can do that as well. So we have family programs this Saturday from 1 to 4. All ages are welcome, and it's around the forest and it's around horticulture. So please come down. We also have our next family programs on August 2nd and 9th from 3 to 6 p.m. That's on a Wednesday. So we want to see if different folks come around. So from Saturday to the ones in August being on Wednesdays. We have Arriba on August 17th from 6 to 9 p.m. in Chelsea Market Passage. Please come. It's super fun. And we have Wiskin, which is the West Side Cultural Network, which will be making a presentation for everybody in the September meeting. So I'll hold off on anything involving that. And then we have our Alexis Blake performance on September 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's going to be produced by Highline Art. So if folks are interested, please come. Again, like I said, we have tabling out there with flyers, and we also have all of our events online. So thank you again, and I hope you all enjoy your meeting.
Thank you very much. And just to further plug, obviously always something going on at the Highline. There's a whole story about the native plants they have here, making sure the pollinators are enjoying the city as much as we are. So check it out if you haven't already. Up next, we are joined by the Deputy Inspector for our precinct Midtown South, Deputy Inspector Aaron Edwards. I pass it over to you, sir, for an update from Midtown South.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. If you can hear me, sir, just give me a thumbs up. All right, thank you very much. All right, my name is Deputy Inspector Aaron Edwards. I'm the commanding officer of Midtown South Precinct. Thank you for inviting me to speak. This is my first CB4 meeting. It's nice to see all of you. I hope to meet you all in person someday soon, perhaps at National Night Out next week, if you all can come by. We'll be at McCaffrey Park. A little bit about myself. I'm a 20-year veteran, so this is year 20 for me. This is my second command. I was the commanding officer of the 17th Precinct, our friends on the East Side. I've also worked some narcotics in the Bronx. I started my career in Midtown North. I'm a native of Queens, and so I'm a city kid through and through. I love the city, love Midtown Manhattan, and so I'm excited to be here to be your commanding officer. I know we're short on time tonight, so I'll just kind of jump right into our strategy for the summer. from when I took over, we've experienced a lot of quality of life issues, especially along 8th Avenue. I get the calls about drug use, about drug sales, about homelessness, the mentally ill. And so what we've tried to do is we tried to flood the area with police officers. And so at nighttime, anytime after about 6 o'clock, you'll see a lot of officers along 8th Avenue, along the Broadway corridor. And we really want to do our focus on quality of life. We're making a lot of drug arrests. Our arrests up this year about 150%. And so we're continuing with that trend of really going after the bad guys, working with the DA's office to try and get quality prosecutions. And right now crime is down in this area. And so it's working, but I know that the feeling of quality of life continues to be a concern. And so we continue to work on that every day. And so I just want to thank the men and women here in Midtown South Precinct. They're working really hard for you. And I do want to thank all of our partners in the community who share information, because you guys are our eyes and ears on the ground. And without you, we couldn't do it because, public safety is that shared responsibility. I'm not going to go on and on and on because I know you have a full agenda, but I do think we have a few questions that we're going to open up the floor to, or I don't know how we're going to do it. So jump right in.
Deputy Inspector, thank you for being here, and it's great to meet you. I'm not sure if there's any stats specifically you want to share. I wasn't planning to go full questions this evening just because of our time limitation. So if there's any key things you want to call out, that would be very welcome.
Absolutely. So for the last 4 weeks, just to go over some of the crime stats, we're down for the last 4 weeks. We're down 26% in overall crime. So we're down 26% overall crime. We're down 62% in robberies, which is really good. We're down 23% in burglaries. We're down 25% in grand larcenies. And so we're doing really well in crime. We had some slight upticks in our felony assaults. Some of that is assaults against our police officers. We are getting some resistance out there when we go in to make the apprehensions, but we're making a lot more apprehensions. And so we're interacting with a lot more people. And then our grand larceny autos, we've seen a bit of an uptick in that. We're up 4, 10 versus 6. And a lot of that are the mopeds. Just to touch on the mopeds real quick, we've made a concerted effort to go after some of these mopeds. We're doing operations constantly to remove the illegal mopeds off the street. Today, we were in Times Square confiscating mopeds. We were, there's an article in the Post the other day showing us we grabbed some mopeds off of 8th Avenue outside of the Row Hotel. We get a lot of complaints about that. So we came through with a big truck and we took the illegal mopeds. And so, we're trying to be responsive to your concerns. I know some of that is the mopeds. And so we've made a lot of confiscations with that throughout the summer as well. And then one last note I just want to throw out there on our arrest. Our arrest this year, we are up a lot in arrests. Overall arrest, we are up 33% in arrests. Summonses, we are up 442% in criminal summonses. So that's people urinating in public, that's people drinking in public. So that's us trying to improve some of the quality of life here in the Midtown area.
My final question and pop quiz for you. What rough boundaries, your southern boundary and your western boundary, so we can understand the limits if you have that on your head for folks not familiar with the Midtown South boundaries, if you don't mind.
Sure, 30th Street to 45th Street. We go to Lexington Avenue to 9th Avenue.
Look at how easy that was. Thank you, Deputy Inspector. Great to meet you, and thank you again for being here and all you guys are doing. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Come out to National Night Out. Thank you.
Thanks. Next up on our agenda this evening is a public hearing on the proposed City of Yes carbon neutrality text amendment. Over to our district manager to see if anybody signed up to speak on that this evening.
I don't believe we did have anybody sign up. There was a bit of a confusion. People signed up in the for the public session, but then also signed up for the public hearing, which are 2 different topics. So I just wanted to make sure that anybody signed up specifically for City of Yes carbon neutrality. No. And if anybody did so for online, can you raise your hands? Your virtual hand? I am not seeing anybody. So if that's all right, I will close this hearing.
Thank you, everybody. What an efficient hearing. Next up on our agenda is the public session run by our first vice chair, Jessica Chait. Jessica, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Jeffrey said, we have quite a number of signees, people who signed up previously and here upon arrival. So we are going to be limiting everyone to 1 minute. Even still, if, yeah, you can hear me. If you find that someone has just said the remarks that you yourself are going to say, we ask that you keep it brief. You can say, I feel the same way, ditto, etc. But we have a lot to get through. And as you heard tonight, we are limited to 9 p.m. So just ask everyone to be cognizant of the time. So I'll call up the first 3 people. We have mics here and we'll also have to toggle between online, I suppose, Jesse. We'll do. Is that everybody who signed up here? Okay, so we have Tom Lunke, Norma Mendez, and Jamie Brown. And we'll set the timer as a reminder and ask that you respect when you hear the buzzer. Tom, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead. Your minute begins.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure why I'm not, okay, start video. Okay, thanks. Thank you, Community Board 4, for participating and studying our West 22nd Open Shared Street. We greatly appreciate all your energy and enthusiasm. DOT's proposed design allows drivers to enter and exit our block safely at a reduced speed. Workers and residents can enjoy walking in the street again. Strategically placed signage, hugs, curb extensions will reduce traffic conflict and make our street more enjoyable for everyone. Please support DOT's full build-out plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We'll go to Norma Mendez and then Jamie Brown. Norma, are you here in person? Okay, and then Timothy Harrell.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jamie Brown. I guess I should go ahead.
Yes, please. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, I'm here to speak on the topic of the Pocket 57 bar and the closing time that's being discussed. I'm a neighbor and I myself live above a place of business with loud music and late nights. And I wanted to speak on this topic because I'm also a patron of the existing Pocket bars and very loyal customer of Susi Darling, who is the owner. I wanted to speak on this topic because if this bar was opening underneath my apartment, I would have the same concerns that the current tenants do. But the reason that I wanted to speak up is because this is not your average bar. This is not your average bar owner. This is a neighbor. This is someone that wants to be a good neighbor. This is someone that'll hold on to your keys when your cat sitter can't make it in time. This is the type of bar owner that would take a text from you if the music is too loud and that would work with you to make sure that this place of business adds value to your block and not devalues or makes it loud or unsafe. It's a really tightly run shop. And so I wanted to share that feedback with the neighbors that have those concerns. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jamie. We're going to go to Timothy and then we'll have Melody Bryant and Nikita Bogdanov. Timothy, are you with us? Okay. All right, Melody.
Hi, I'm audible, I take it?
Yes, we hear and see you. Go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. I've had kinky internet today. So I want to thank the board for letting me speak tonight. I'd like to speak on the DOT's plan for the redesign of West 22nd Street. I fully support the DOT plan and I hope the board will approve it as originally proposed, with no amendments to reduce neck downs or bump outs to accommodate parking. DOT understands how traffic moves in the city and our need to reduce both the speed and the amount of car traffic that enters our streets. This community has long supported more greenery on West 22nd, and the original DOT plan gives us that. It's important to reduce the incentive for drivers to speed and bring their cars into our street thinking that they'll find a place to park when 80% of our residents do not own cars. And to put a finer point on it, the sweltering heat we're all currently experience is not unrelated to the cars bringing plenty of heat with them into the city. This board has been at the forefront of changing the streets in Hell's Kitchen to meet the needs of residents there. And it's time for Chelsea to get the same attention. I urge the board to support the DOT's original proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Melody. Nikita, are you with us? Okay, Susan, you'll be up, and then Louis Berteau and Mary King. Susan? Susan, do you hear us? Okay.
Hello, hello.
Yes, we hear and see you.
Do you hear
Go
me?
ahead.
Want to know, mostly what this meeting's about? Is it about NYCHA and the RAD or the related and the essence meeting, or what is it about?
So Susan, this is our community board 4 meeting. We're not specifically addressing this, but this is our public session. So you're welcome to use your minute. You've signed up to say anything you'd like about the proposed redevelopment of NYCHA.
The development of the parks and recreation, for the recreation center on 25th Street that needs new stuff in the bathrooms, need new sink and everything else put together. And that was supposed to be a participatory budget for this year to be fixed. And the streets and the sidewalks in Chelsea and West 27th Drive and everything else, and public safety for the elevators in my building, and the glass in the front door that people come back and forth, and everything else put together.
Understood. Thank you for sharing your concern, Susan. We'll go now to Louis, followed by Mary.
Yeah, hi, Louis
Oh.
Birch here. First of
Okay.
all, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead, Louis. Your
First
minute
of all,
starts.
as a 50-year resident of Elliott Chelsea houses, I'm appalled to hear that the only seemingly idea is to level this development of 13 buildings. I think it's a big mistake for government to now, after all the investment that has been done by the taxpayers over the years, to just destroy these buildings and start all over again. I think there has to be a sensible plan to try to do a controlled repair of each building and do it in such a way that it causes the least of discomfort to the residents here. And the next thing I wanted to also talk real quickly is about these e-bikes that apparently are taking over the sidewalks all over the city, especially here in this area. And something has to be done before somebody gets hurt. And lastly, I'm looking at the traffic lights that are the traffic that is overstepping on the crosswalks. So you can't get across even on foot or on cars that are trying to cross the street. I mean, this is an eternal problem in New York, I understand, but something has to be done. Maybe some of these cameras have to come up and put a deterrent to these vehicles that just keep blocking all these crosswalks. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Louis, for all those points. We're gonna move on. Do we have Mary? Mary, are you with us? Mary, you'll need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
No, it's on.
You sure can. Go ahead. And Louis, and Susan, if you could go ahead and mute yourselves. Thank you.
I had
Go
comments regarding, I'm sorry, I had comments regarding Pocket Bar. I wanted to thank the board for temporarily curtailing the hours of the proposed bar and want you to know what a relief that is to the tenants at 469 and to our fellow neighbors. I have submitted a statement regarding my concerns about sound emanating from the common wall my bedroom in Unit 1A shares with the east wall in Unit 1B. The only solution offered by the owner is to place a tapestry on our common wall. The idea that a tapestry is adequate soundproofing seems ludicrous to me. In order to mitigate any leaking of noise, sheetrock should be placed on all the walls in 1B, including the west, south, and east walls, especially when one of those walls shares a common wall with an actual living tenant. I hope that this critical issue, which was previously raised by Ms. Carrie Keenan, can be effectively addressed and resolved by the board before sending this application to the SLA. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. we'll go to Molly Harris, followed by Andrea Edelman.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm a resident of West 200 West 22nd Street Block Association. Two quick mentions from the shared street. One, I think the DOT in general has been dismissive and disingenuous of the recommendations of our community board, because one, they don't talk about West 103rd Street as they talk about it as a positive and everything is going well, when there's a huge controversy going on West 103rd Street. The council member had to bring in a mediator to talk to the neighbors, and this is a big issue. The second thing I want to mention is that your letter that you sent to DOT back in January says, quote, in the first paragraph, we urge the DOT to initiate a study for the proposal and its direct impact on traffic and on neighboring eastbound streets as soon as possible, et cetera, et cetera. They have not only not done that, they seem to not know much about doing any of that. And in your suggested letter today, that's being proposed today, the last paragraph sentence says, as previously requested, we asked the DOT provide any data gathered as a result of the study, especially concerning the impact on changes on east-west traffic and surrounding blocks. Again, none of the data has been done. They don't seem interested in doing the data. And I think that that's a huge issue, especially for anyone who lives on, I don't know, West 20th Street. Because imagine all the extra car exhaust in the heat, as Melody mentioned, will be on 20th Street, just not on 22nd Street. I just don't think that's a fairness to the community at large.
Thank you.
And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move to Andrea, and then we'll go to Lisa Wager. Andrea, are you with us?
I am here.
Great, go ahead. Your minute begins.
Let's see. Great, thank you. I'm a Chelsea resident speaking in support of the 22nd Street shared design as DOT originally proposed. I support maintaining all of the bump outs and neck downs that were in the original proposal. I echo what Melody said, and I urge you to reject the request for fewer neck downs and bump outs and to support the original design in the greatest interest of the public as expressed through the workshops and engagement activities that previously took place. I believe in prioritizing space for people to use the street for social and recreational activities that make the neighborhood and its residents healthier. And maximal traffic calming achieves those goals. I support the number of neck downs and bump outs in the original proposal and urge you to do the same.
Thank you very much, Andrea. Lisa, followed by Barack Friedman.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, you can hear me, right?
We sure can. We don't see you, but we go ahead.
I don't know why you can't see me, but I can't fix that now. And I know you're very hot there. So I'm just going to start talking. Hi, I'm Lisa Wager, Director, Government Community Relations at the Fashion Institute of Technology, the East SUNY College on West 27th Street with a 1,000-person residence hall in the district on 31st Street west of 9th. I'm here to share a few FIT updates. FIT Associate Professor of Science and Math, Jan Shiros, won a 2023 National Geographic Wayfinder Award. The Geographic Society named, quote, 15 trailblazers from 12 nations as Wayfinder recipients for their exceptional contributions on a local and global scale. This year's awardees included an Egyptologist, documentary filmmaker, investigative journalist, biologist, urban ecologist, and other inventors who were selected for their exemplary achievements in exploration through science, education, conservation, technology, and storytelling. Professor Theros is a materials scientist whose research focuses on the development of performance textiles using advanced and bio-inspired materials to create a circular economy and improve the sustainability of the textile manufacturing industry, and she teaches at FIT. Pre-college fall programs. The registration for the fall in-person and remote high school pre-college programs begins on Wednesday, August 23rd. I'll tell you more about the available classes and workshops when we meet on September 6th. But if you know someone who will be interested, they may want to check out the website at the end of August as the classes fill up quickly. Just go to fitnyc.edu and put in pre-college. Thank you and stay hydrated.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll go to Mr. Friedman, followed by Bradley Mossholder.
Hey there. I'm not sure why the video is not working, but just go ahead and start. Brock Friedman here. I just wanted to say that I support the original DOT plan for West 22nd Street Open Street with bump outs and neck downs because it slows traffic. So it's going to be safer for pedestrians, safer for cyclists. There's more greenery, which is desperately needed in the city. There's more place to sit, which is desperately needed in the city. And so watering that down, I think would be a huge mistake for the board for CB4. So I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. We'll move on to Bradley Mossholder, followed by Bobby from New York City Parks.
Hello, can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Great. I'm just here to discuss Pocket Bar 57. I would like to state that I agree with Mary Kane, who spoke earlier, and add in addition, based off of previous meetings, they were Pocket Bar 57 was required to do a sound study, which they did, provided by Acoustalog. I would add that in addition to the reduced hours requested, that they also be denied unless they meet all recommendations listed in the Acoustalog sound study, which they did provide to Community Board 4. I also sent with a statement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bobby, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to talk about two quick things. First off, starting tomorrow, our pool is going to have more lap swimming and general swim sessions. It's not on the website yet, but if anyone's interested for the full schedule, it will be on the website live tomorrow morning. So you can check the website or you can call the center tonight and they can give you those hours. I also just wanted to touch on our Saturday Night Lights program a little bit. That is happening every Saturday from 4 to 8 p.m. We close down the center and we only allow children ages 11 to 17 in there. It's very popular. Kids can play basketball, table tennis, billiards. 16 and over children can use the weight room. And also kids are also able to swim. And we've been noticing, we've been getting a lot of asylum children coming, particular to swim. And just I want to touch on the asylum topic a little bit. Probably around September, we're going to be introducing some programming specifically for them, most likely gearing towards soccer. So that's all I have for tonight, and hope everyone has a good evening.
Thank you, Bobby. We'll go to Susie Darling, and then Jesse, I'd like to go to Matisse Frazier. The topics are aligned. Susie? Susie, are you have to accept and take yourself off mute?
Actually, it's hi, this is Susie Darling.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead, Susie. We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Actually, it said the host requested that I speak. Actually, I didn't ask to speak, but if they're
Sorry, we have you as sign up, but no problem. No need.
I mean, I since I'm on, I would like to respond to Mary and to Brad that I did have the full sound check done that was requested and advised by the business board, and I'm absolutely going to do everything that's in that proposal. I'm excited to do it, and they were sound checked in both apartments, and you can read it there. And I'm willing, and I'm going to do everything that's in there. So thank you.
Thank you, Susie. And just to clarify, you're the owner of the Pocket Bar. Is that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll go to Matisse Frazier, and then I think I saw Pamela Wolf get it's your mic. Okay, then we'll go to Ellen Delgado after Matisse. Matisse?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. I'm here to speak on behalf of Susie Darling and the Pocket Bar at 57. I am an employee there. I've been there for a little over 2 years now. And I just need to iterate what kind of employer Susie is, as well as to Jamie Brown's point, what kind of neighbor she is within the community. This isn't an unknown entity. She's had now 2 bars in the neighborhood for going on a decade. And I think everyone within the neighborhood, including myself, can attest that she is the kind of person that you want to be working on the block. As an employee, I have never been better taken care of. You can't imagine being in the service industry, what that looks like. but we are better taken care of there than I've been at big corporations across the country in my entire life. So I just have to advocate on her behalf that this is an incredible business that does only wonderful things for the community that it serves. Regarding noise, I just have to say I work Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, which are our busiest and latest nights. And I've never once received a noise complaint. I've never had a cop show up for a noise complaint. I've never had a neighbor call. We are not the kind of bar that has people outside smoking late night or degrading the neighborhood. We shut things down and people move on. Thank you so much for having me.
Hard to do the same here, but thank you very much. Ellen Delgado. Sorry. I have Ellen Delgado, owner of 107th West 26th Street.
I was called on this meeting the last time for the Pocket Bar, but I live on West 26th Street and I'm here about the Ainsworth site. Could you please keep me from the Pocket Bar?
Sorry, this is just an open public session. Go ahead and share your remarks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Go ahead. Starts now.
I've lived on this street since 1976. The people who've been running the Ainsworth and that site for years have not responded well to the neighborhood, have not listened to our complaints. Noise, fights, you can't sleep. And I just don't want another venue coming in exactly like them. So I would really appreciate the board, which has responded to us recently, to just continue to support us to keep our neighborhood safer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. And Jesse, you're telling me we have 3 more hands up? I don't know that I have those names. All right, Tim, Amy, and Alan, we're going to bring you over, and that will be the end of the public session from the perspective of online, and then we'll move to in person. So, sorry, Tim.
Hi, I'm here.
Great, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, yeah. So I want to speak about the Pocket Bar on 57th Street, and I really support Brad and Mary's concerns because the building is not very soundproofed at all. In fact, I live in the back of the building and I can hear every move my neighbor upstairs makes. So it's a real issue with having sound transmitted from one wall to the other. And so if I know if my bedroom wall were adjacent to a bar, no matter how friendly they are, how wonderful people they are, I would really be concerned about the sound. So I think it's really a big issue to try and control that sound that doesn't interfere with Brad's apartment or Mary Kane. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I'm sorry, Emily? Amy, excuse me. Amy, you'll be next.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
We can, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm also a resident of 469 West 57th. I've lived here for 40 years. I know Tim, Mary, and Brad, and echo their concerns. What hasn't been mentioned is really our security concerns that came up at the first meeting and they haven't been addressed. I was robbed this year for the first time ever in my home. And I've lived here, as I said, for 40 years. And the concern about the traffic and the ease with which someone will be able to enter the building is of a great concern for me and has not been addressed. And lastly, I would just like to urge the community board. Susie may be great and the people may be great, but I would urge you to listen to the tenants who live in the building. We have plenty of bars in Manhattan and there are plenty of locations. We don't want a bar here, and because of our concerns, and I just urge the community board to listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. We'll go to Alan now.
Hi, this is Alan. I'm speaking on behalf of Susie Darling and the Pocket Bar. I'm a neighbor of the current Pocket Bar, and I know that they are respectful of the community. I know they treat the community well. I know that there's not noise problems. And I really honestly think that the concerns are NIMBY. People just are afraid of what they don't know. And they really should listen to someone who cares about the community and has already promised to take every single precaution she can.
Thank you, Alan. But that will, as we said, if you have your hand up online, we're going to now close that and we're going to shift to in person. So we have the sign up here. Right, again. Okay. We're going to start with Liam Jeffries, followed by Tito Delgado. We have mics up at each place here, and people can only hear you online if you speak into a mic. So please go up to one of the two mics. And you'll still have a 1 minute to speak. And are you Liam?
I'm Liam, yeah.
Great. Go for it, Liam.
Right, cool. All right, my name is Liam Jeffries, and having seen the DOT's original redesign for a shared street on West 22nd Street, I am speaking in favor of it without the removal of any neck downs or bump outs. It is my sincerest hope that the DOT will not be swayed by a small minority of drivers, most of whom do not live on West 22nd between 7th and 8th Avenues, who want to claim the street's public space for themselves without consideration for the car-free residents on the block who vastly outnumber them. The original design is both generous to pedestrians, effective at speed mitigation and reducing traffic violence, and swaps 10 parking spaces out of a total of 80 for greenery, which is something the community has long asked for. Most importantly of all, considering the fact that Manhattan side streets are already used as de facto open streets by their residents to begin with, it would merely be formalizing and making safer pedestrian behavior that already exists and has for generations of New Yorkers. I thus urge the board to amend the Transportation Committee letter to approve DOT's redesign proposal, quote, without the removal of neck downs or bump outs, end quote. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Liam. As I mentioned, we're going to go to Tito Delgado, and then after that, we'll go to Norman Siegel.
My name is Tito Delgado. I've worked for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Renewal for over 30 years as an investigator. I know there's money for public housing. It's the political will that's not there. And I beg this community board to fight for people who it's difficult for them to fight for themselves. You know, this plan is a bait and switch plan. That was not the original plan. And all of a sudden they're talking about destroying public housing. Are you kidding me? The way homelessness is in this city, we're going to take away more housing. I grew up in public housing. They gave me an opportunity to go to school. Public housing is necessary. We cannot switch over to Section 8 vouchers. That is not guaranteed. Section 9 is. Do not endorse this plan. Please help people fight against it. There's plenty of money. Hudson Yard is proof of that. They got billions of dollars in tax subsidies. Wall Street is getting, rich and not paying taxes, many of them. So I don't want to hear the excuse that there's no money. There's plenty of money. Please give us the political will. Help us fight this.
Thank you. Thank you, Tito. We're going to go to Norman. We're going to go to Norman Siegel, and then we're going to go to Salinas Miranda.
Good evening. I'm here to debunk the premise that a majority of the people at Fulton and Elliott Chelsea, majority of them voted for demolition. The document that was sent to people, 15 pages, never has the word vote in any of the 15 pages. 4 times it says it's a survey. A survey solicits people's opinion. A survey is not a referendum nor a binding vote. At best, the New York Times said that 30% of the people were eligible to vote. They said 18 or older were eligible to vote. We backed in the numbers. You should get the numbers. It's 3,167 people were eligible. 30% of that is 950 people. The Times then said roughly 60% voted for demolition. 60% of 950 is 570. So 570 out of 3,167 is 18%. 18% can never be a majority of people. And the politicians continue to say a majority of the people voted for demolition. I respect Community Board 4. You've been good on other issues like this. I urge you to debunk the issue that a majority voted for demolition.
Thank you,
It's
Norman.
misinformation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're gonna go, as I mentioned, we're gonna go to Salinas Miranda and Alexa Cruz. Go ahead.
Salinas Miranda, a resident from Elliott.
Go
Can
ahead.
we start over?
It's on. You just need to speak more closely to the mic.
Salinas Miranda, a resident from Elliott Housing in Chelsea. I'm here speaking from CB4 to follow through on your promise. In 2019, you were part of a working group where it was concluded that NYCHA buildings in Chelsea will not be demolished. I don't understand what changed. NYCHA keep on insisting that this decision is resident driven. How is that when only 30% of the tenants voted? Within that 30%, only 18% of all eligible voters in these developments want demolition. That's the minority and not democratic to follow through on such a low number. How is this being forced on us when the majority do not want it? Jonathan Gouveia claims that an in-depth educational process was done, but the majority of the residents don't know the difference between Section 8 and Section 9. They think they are being converted into a traditional Section 8 and not the project-based Section 8 that's under these private companies. They truly don't know what they are giving up and what they are getting themselves into because the tenants have not been fully educated in the process. The presentations have been biased and one-sided. They include stuff in the $1.8 billion estimation that we don't need. NYCHA said that buildings are deteriorating due to what's going on behind the walls, but the majority of the stuff included.
Thank you, Salinas. Thank you. Thank you. We'll go to Alexa Cruz here and then next,
Yes.
apologies, it's Jacqueline. I'm having a hard, sorry.
My name is Alexa and I live in Chelsea since 1969. And I agree with what Celine just said. And I also want to add that I've heard on the news that the city is sinking 1 to 2 centimeters for the high rises. And if they build they demolish these buildings and they rebuild them, they're gonna jeopardize New York City. And I'm concerned about that. And I want to remain with Section 9, no demolition.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you Jacqueline? Yeah. Sorry, just your last name? Okay, great. Go ahead. And then we'll follow by Luis Colon.
Hi, guys. My name is Jacqueline Laro, and I'm from Fulton Houses. I'm a resident there for 21 years. I also was in the working group, and the conclusion was no demolition. This came out of nowhere, like with under the table of them wanting to demolish. These buildings do not need demolished. We could fix it with the rat pack and have the same stuff that we have. We could really get the rat pack going and make these buildings beautiful again. All it needs is some pressure washing and we'll be good with that and some new windows, but no demolition. Let's keep what we did. The conclusion, no demolition to any of these developments is a big mistake. And you're gonna cause another 9/11 with all the asbestos that you're gonna open up in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacqueline. We have Luis Colon, followed by Daniel Ramirez and Lauren Wolf.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Luis Colon, and I really don't not good at talking, but I just want to say something. I've been living here for over practically all my life. I've been schooled here all my life. I'm here practically for the 40% of the people that's elders. They cannot defend themselves, like the gentleman said, and also for almost the 30% of the people who are disability, they cannot participate in rallies and stuff like that. Me personally, this is was the PAP program. On the PAP program, we never agreed. I never agreed with this PAP program. Now there've been some meetings all these years about what they're gonna do, about the renovation that we're gonna be there, and for some reason, a few weeks ago, having the building demolition sign like they're gonna demolish. We don't sign for that. We don't sign for that. If they're gonna keep on the PAP program, this is what the contract, comply with what you say and don't take us out. Because this is our hood. And we are living in good hood and we don't want to go nowhere. We're gonna stay here.
Thank you, Luis.
That's what I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Daniel?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mi nombre es Daniel Ramírez, vivo en Fulton House.
Yo no entiendo por qué nos quieren destruir los apartamentos y viven, que dice la ciudad que no hay dinero para reparaciones. ¿Dónde va el dinero que pagamos como inquilinos y pagamos taxi aquí, que tenemos derecho, el mismo derecho que el otro tiene de vivir, nosotros lo tenemos? Entonces, le pido de favor que Fulton no lo tumbe, lo vide, pues lo que necesitamos es renovación, no que no lo tumben. Ok, gracias.
Gracias. Lauren Wolf.
Hi, my name is Lauren Wolf, and I urge everybody on this community board to please read the book. It's a very easy read. It's a small book called A Dream Foreclosed. It talks about how we've done this in Chicago and LA and all over the United States. Tear down these low-income houses and privatize. It talks about how all these developers, I work in the South Bronx, and the whole South Bronx during COVID became gentrified overnight. And how then they put 3 apartments per building with the separate entrance for the low-income residents. It's not fair. We are working class and we deserve our houses.
Thank you. We'll go to Lizette Colon, followed by Roberto Rodriguez.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lizette Colon. I was not going to be talking, but I decided to talk because we have to speak up on behalf of our neighbors. I live in Penn South, and that is part of our community. And this is something that we should come out from here. They don't want demolition. They want renovation. They want to still have their housing. Just like Celine said, they might like to have, and they should have, good living conditions, and they don't have them right now. But that doesn't mean that you, as community board, are going to be agreeing with Essence and whoever said that has to be demolished. And then later on, we all know that they will not come back. Not all of them will be coming back. And that is their neighborhood. That is the living. So I beg you to please do not go for this plan and listen to the community and allow them to vote, a real vote. And it will show you that they don't want to leave and they want to stay with good living conditions, just like all of you have where you live.
Thank you, Lizette. Thank you. Thank you, Roberto. Go ahead. And then we'll be followed by Marnie Halassa and Pamela Wolf.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Roberto Rodriguez, and I've lived in Chelsea for most of my 77 years. My first vision of luxury housing was Elliott Houses, the original Elliott Houses. I was invited there by my 5-year-old classmate who shared my birthday, and so she invited me to her home. And I was amazed. Now, I grew up on 229 West 26th Street. That building is at least 130 years old. It has not been torn down. It is structurally sound. And Fulton Housing is much more structurally sound than any of the older buildings that you see around here in Chelsea. There's no need to tear this down. Penn South was built at the same time that Fulton Housing was. Now, Human Rights Watch wrote an article, the tenant's always losing, alluding to, is always loses, which is in tune with what this person also said. The fact is that when we enter into these public-private partnerships and we move from Section 9 to Section 8 housing, the tenant loses important protections and rights. I see this as a ploy for making profits. Now, they've been complaining about the fact that they have lack of funds. Well, I would say do what Phil Steck, Assemblyman from the 110th District, and his fellow state Senator Sanders did, was to reinstate the stock transfer tax, which is at 5 cents for every dollar. That generates $14 billion a year. That's $240 billion a year since they refunded it back since 1980.
Thank you, Roberto. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll go to Marnie and then Pamela, you'll be up.
Okay. Hi, my name is Marnie Halassa, community activist. I was a part of the movement in 2019 that stopped the demolition of 2 of the shorter Fulton houses. Everybody is here saying all these amazing things. I'm here to say that the tenants during events are being harassed by Miguel Acevedo, and also Hector Vasquez is right there filming with a smile on his face. Miguel and Darlene, on Saturday, Miguel attacked Jackie Lara and other tenants on Fulton Family Day. Also at a rally at the Hudson Guild, it's on video. I put it up on my Twitter, Marnie for Change. You have Miguel like silencing a rally of his own tenants. That's number one. Also, two, the tenants are being shut out of resident engagement meetings because some tenants are deemed troublemakers when seats are available. Danielle had the video. This is also on my Twitter, Marty for Change. The tenants are asking for a resolution from CB4 against the demolition, also to join Legal Aid Society and Community Service Society that were also part of the working group that they're against demolition. So, these people, Darlene and Miguel and Hector right there, I'm telling you, these people are compromised and they're working against the tenants.
Thank you,
And
Marty.
CB4, you guys should be against it.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty. All right, we're gonna go to Pamela Wolf to close us out.
Well, that's a hard act to follow, these speakers. I'm going to bring us back to 22nd Street to a much lighter topic, I think. I am Pamela Wolf. I'm here speaking on behalf of the Chelsea West 200 Block Association. This evening, I want to speak in favor of the CB4's letter, but I would like to reference some changes in that letter that I'd like to see, some which were put forward but didn't get into the letter. Let's see if I can read this, and I'll try to be quick. These are all technical things. At the 8th Avenue end, there should not be a bump out on the north side. If you think the ladder truck from the fire department has a huge turning radius, and having an obstruction at that end on the north side will be problematic. Besides, there's a fire hydrant on the north side. The cluster of three, we'd like to see the cluster of 3 planters and a big rock on the south side. The loading zone presently there is used more or less as permanent parking by the florist. The bump outs should not face one another, but should be staggered. They create a vicious pinch point, forcing cars, trucks, and cyclists to squeeze into a death trap. Cyclists and motorized two-wheelers will take to the sidewalk in self-defense, and I wouldn't blame them. If the planters and rocks were alternating, traffic would have to slow down. As it is now, as it's laid out now, it's still a straight shot through the block. I have a couple of more. To appease the folks who are afraid of loitering, homeless, and drugged out miscreants hanging out on the rocks, don't use rocks with flat tops. There are a few more items that I will present to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you all for your time this evening and for complying with the minute limit. As you heard, we are on a very tight overall agenda, but appreciate everyone coming. In every meeting, we have this opportunity, so please sign up. It's next time. That will conclude our public session.
There are a number of folks that came over from the public for the public session. Unfortunately, I need to remove you from the panelist section, but Zoom is not letting me do so. So I'm going to have to kick you out. If you wanted to rejoin the meeting to watch it, you can just re-register and join. It shouldn't be a problem. Just click the same link that you got originally. All right. So that's just sort of clear that who I'm talking about is Molly Harris, Melanie Bryant, Tom Lunke, Jamie Brown, Mary Kane. All right. Unless you want to jump off yourself, but I'm going to be removing you shortly.
Technology. Jesse usually wouldn't kick people out, but we have to, man, I'm having such luck with the mic tonight. So as we move forward in the agenda, I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda, please. Tina is a first, a second. Thank you, Leslie. Any objections? Online? Great, the agenda is adopted. Any questions on the minutes from our June meeting? Hearing no questions, I'll take a motion to adopt the minutes. Call it out, folks. Thank you, Tina. Is there a second? Thank you, Alice. Any objections? Great, the minutes pass. Up next, reports from our elected officials. The borough president will be stopping by here this evening in person, so we await his arrival. But in the meantime, we are joined by our Assemblymember Linda Rosenthal online. I think. What is she's here? There we go. There we go.
Hi, everyone.
Go
You
right
are
ahead.
a tight ship. I admire it. Anyway, I'm Assembly Member Linda Rosenthal, and I'm happy to be here tonight. Let's see, this week I joined the Hell's Kitchen Neighborhood Coalition Forum on cannabis. It's a very important issue. It deserves our attention, which is why in the Assembly and the Senate passed a bill into law in June, granting the Office of Cannabis Management greater enforcement power over stores that sell illegal cannabis. Since then, the state has seized 11,000 pounds of illicit goods worth more than $11 million. I wrote to OCM recently urging them to prioritize the inspection of smoke shops located near schools. Last summer, I worked with a host of parents to identify smoke shops that were selling flavored e-cigarettes, which are illegal to sell to anyone, but particularly underage people. And hopefully with the new powers that OCM has, and working with the Manhattan DA, who just recently levied $400,000 in fines to a bunch of smoke shops, we're going to root them out of the community. We lose tax money on the cannabis. We don't know where the cannabis comes from. There's illegal goods being sold there, and landlords should really rent responsibly and not to entities that they know are purveying illegal goods. Next, I introduced a bill working with Alvin Bragg's office and Brad Hoylman's office, 3D gun bill, which would ban the manufacture and distribution of blueprints of 3D guns. Some time ago, a bill that I had banned the use and possession of 3D guns, and now we have to ban the distribution and manufacture of those guns. Right now, any one of us could buy a 3D printer, download the instructions, and go build ourselves any kind of gun. And it's very scary. They're not traceable, and they are being increasingly used to commit crimes. And, it's very difficult to pursue them when the guns have no ID and nobody knows that they were even created. I've also introduced a bill that would prevent a person from buying more than one gun in a 30-day period. So we have to continue to be vigilant, even though New York State has really good gun violence bills. The people are always one step ahead. And so we have to be vigilant. Senator Gillibrand also introduced a similar bill on the federal level. So we're working all together. There was an article in the Gothamist today about insurance companies refusing to insure buildings or raising the rate of insurance if landlords are renting units to people who hold Section 8 vouchers. That's despicable. It raises the cost of insurance. It leaves people with vouchers even more alienated because landlords don't want to take them. And it's basically a redlining response by insurance companies. People who hold vouchers pay rent. Their apartments get inspected by HUD before they're allowed to be used in those units. Any other building, someone could pay a high rent, a low rent. Apartments can be unsafe. Those buildings can get insurance much easier because they don't have Section 8 voucher unit. It's terrible. I'm introducing legislation to put an end to this, and especially when we have over 100,000 people experiencing homelessness and in shelters, we need to get those with vouchers into apartments. And that's a call to action. Basically, the city has to amp up its game as well. On Pier 92 and 94, I spoke with Chair LeFrancois, and I then spoke to Executive Director of EDC, Andrew Kimball, telling them how important it is for CB4, the whole community, and me and other elected officials that Vornado fulfills its obligation to build pedestrian walkways, greenway, and actually complete a project they were supposed to complete a long time ago, and that their feet must be held to the fire. We can't just ignore it. We have to make sure they do what they are supposed to do. And I'll be leading a joint effort to ensure that they commit to regular stakeholder meetings. And I look forward to continuing being vigilant on that. I also spoke to him about the downtown heliport, which is something that is not needed here in Manhattan. And we shouldn't have a downtown heliport. There are other heliports that can tend to emergencies and other police activities, whatever. We don't need another sightseeing heliport. And while EDC is contracting with SACR over this time period before a new RFP is responded to, let's revisit this whole thing and not continue with these enabling noisy helicopters to disrupt people's lives. Finally, I'll be hosting a scree clinic on Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in my office with the New York City Department of Finance. Please come, please RSVP if you intend to come. Anyone who is 62 and older and makes $50,000 or less a year, who has a disability, you can sign up for scree and DREE and have your rent frozen. So good opportunity. I'm at 230 West 72nd Street, Suite 2F. If you come, you can get a mask, you can get all manner of supplies. So please come, and the city is really great in working with us to get people on screen. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Assemblymember. Enjoy the rest of the summer, and thanks for being here. Up next, we are joined by Councilmember Gail Brewer. Councilmember? Hold on, you got to unmute. Gail, you have to.
Thank you. Now I'm at the Delacorte Theater, so it's very loud. About to speak in Hamlin. I just came also from, I guess, 500 people at an e-bike meeting at East 90th Street, and you know there were a lot of West Siders there too. I think you know the issues, but the 5 people who spoke have all been injured. It was quite heart-rendering in many different ways. So I know that the state would work specifically on all licensing and insurance. But on the West Side, we are going to put together with all stakeholders a task force to talk about this issue. I know you've done it in Board 4, but we need to do it in Board 7. So I'm working on that as we speak. I want to give the mayor's office credit. We talked to the mayor about it, and now I've met with all the city agencies involved, and they're going to work with us at least to give people the roadmap as to what we need to do. There was quite a lot of discussion today. Number 2, I am working with all of the different perks, both the Watson, which I know is in your and 450 West 57th Street, but also the ones that are on the Upper West Side. And I think although there's a lot of effort, you know, even things like 2 weeks, some of the moms didn't have formula and wipes. We have motorbikes everywhere, talk about e-bikes on some of the residential streets. So there's just an awful lot to do. I don't know what's going to happen in the future in terms of the 60-day issue. We'll have to see. We're all swamped with congestion pricing issues. Again, the more communication, the better. I want to thank the Lincoln Square bid because they did just send out a really good informational piece. But I don't think there's been enough information shared with the public, and I'm working on that, as are others. I agree with the assembly member. We testified against the downtown heliport concession agreement, which of course is out right now. Who are they going to have run the heliport, have helicopters, and of course we're opposed to it completely. I think you've all gotten our FY24 budget. If not, it's on our press release. I want to thank your council member, Eric Botcher, because we're all looking to see what's going to happen with the special use permit for MSG. I feel strongly that it should not be 10 years. I think others feel the same way. I certainly testified to that effect at the meeting. We passed a bill recently, which is not earth-shattering, but it's something I've been working on for years. Who are the people who are up on the signs when you co-sign on the roads and avenues? And now the mayor's office is going to be mandated to have a website. I'm hoping at the municipal library's website with biographical information pertaining to the entity, that a street, a park, a playground, a facility, anything. So that people know who these people are, so they know their history. And we have lots of bills that we're introducing that I'll be glad to share, mostly on The tree canopy is one. I know Council Member Boxer also has one on that issue. And I've been constantly working to try to get the playgrounds open. Some are open, but we need more. In oversight and investigations, we had a hearing on air quality and the emergency that it produces. We also just had one on warehouses. One in Brooklyn had a fire and a lot of evidence was destroyed. Well, it turns out there's a lot of warehouses and not clear where they are or not fire safety. So those are some of the issues. We will start the housing events that we have every month to help with tenants in the fall. We have the fresh food for seniors. I know Councilmember Bacha has that also. It's very, very popular. Huge numbers of people are signing up for fresh food for seniors. And also we have every single week somebody from the finance department and our staff working on screen. Thank you very much, Board 4. I know there was also an issue about one of the, will come up in the SLA discussion. I did write a letter on behalf of some of the residents. I know it's a good owner, but I just think that all owners and all residents need to have a good conversation so that the bar does what they're supposed to do and the owners do what they're supposed to do. Thank you very much.
Enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Of course. Up next, Eric Straza from District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office. Eric.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, you're good to go, Eric.
Great, sounds good. It doesn't look like I have camera access right now, but I will provide my updates nonetheless. I know that there's a super packed agenda today, so just want to make everything quick. June was an extremely busy month for our office. Just want to give you some top line updates on some things that we were up to. Earlier in June, we held one of our gun buybacks, which we were able to recover over 50 firearms, including some ghost guns and semi-automatic weapons, which we were particularly happy about because, as Assemblymember Rosenthal mentioned, they are particularly difficult to track down. So thanks to everyone who helped make that a success and also made the next thing I'm talking about a success, our annual Art of Healing Festival. That took place on the following weekend up in East Harlem, basically allowing for the community to heal from the trauma of gun violence, kind of speaking to our work on the other side of gun violence through the arts. So there's a lot of things like spoken word, music, dance, arts and crafts, things like that. And that was a lot of fun. So thanks to everyone who came out. We also held our Basketball City kickoff event that same weekend, which basically kicks off a series of summer sports programming for younger New Yorkers to make sure that they are utilizing their time constructively over the summer months. And we were also joined by some former NBA pros, the DA, the police commissioner. That was also a lot of fun as well. We also convened basically our next series of Small Business Alliance meetings. I'm not sure if everyone remembers when I spoke about the Small Business Alliance last year, but it was basically a group put together to address and prevent shoplifting and retail theft, specifically through increasing engagement and conversation with small businesses. I think we're working on the name a little bit because we also talk to larger businesses and corporations as well. We know that, pharmacies like Duane Reade and Walgreens, they're particularly hit hard by this issue. So we convened our new series of meetings basically to stay updated on what the community and what those businesses are seeing. And it's basically to inform the 5-point plan, which can be found on our website that we've been utilizing to address this issue. We also, pursuant to a request for proposal for our Neighborhood Navigators funding opportunity, recently announced that we would be granting $6 million total to The Bridge, a community-based organization which, pursuant to that RFP, would be helping us address underlying conditions like mental health, as well as substance abuse. So these are specifically to fund outreach groups to go out into the community and engage with people before they enter the criminal justice system. And we hope that that'll have an impact moving forward once those teams actually get the funding and roll out on a number of different issues, but mainly a lot of the quality of life issues that Inspector Edwards mentioned, and also things like recidivism, shoplifting, et cetera. So really excited about that. We are also looking for, in that Neighborhood Navigators program, communication and collaboration with the community, as well as other community-based groups. So I'm sure we'll be reaching out just for some assistance on that. And last thing I would like to plug is just something also Inspector Edwards mentioned is that National Night Out is coming up next week on Tuesday. It'll basically be held at every precinct throughout the city, and it's an opportunity for community members to learn about crime prevention initiatives, different programming, speak to law enforcement and the officers that patrol our streets and have a lot of questions answered. You can always bring anything to the commanding officers that you meet, any of the officers, the patrol officers, but also our office will be staffing every single precinct. So looking forward to seeing everyone there. I think that's all that I have. So Jeffrey, I'll pass it off to you, and congrats on another successful and large scale hybrid meeting. It seems like it's going really well.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it and the updates. Thank you, everybody. That concludes our reports from elected officials this evening until we are joined in person by Borough President Mark Levine. So in the meantime, I'm going to pass it over to our esteemed district manager, Jesse Bodine, for his update. I lied and retract the previous statement in that we have an update from State Senator Kruger's office. Dana Schmelzer is here with us this evening. Dana, I apologize for that.
No worries at all. Hi, everyone. Dana Schmerzler here. I'll just keep it very brief and give you two quick updates. We wanted to put on everyone's radar, and you may already be aware, but the state has commenced the process of recertifying. Can't speak tonight. Basically, now if you receive Medicaid, Child Health Plus, or the Essential Plan, you have to recertify. This was put on pause during the pandemic, but right now there are still 558,000 New Yorkers that need to recertify by July 31st that have not done so yet. So if you are on one of these plans and you're not sure if it's your time to recertify, you can call our office. We can connect you with the community health advocates, and you can also call the New York State Medicaid helpline as well. And I just want to put on everyone's radars, and we will be sending this information to Jesse to post in their newsletter, but we just finished our Healthy Homes and Housing workshop series that has been going on since the winter. You can find that on our website, and we will also, in about a month, have a financial planning workshop series. So if you have a kid that's in high school and college, if your financial situation has changed recently, it could be a really great workshop for you. And we will also be having one on Scree as well. And that's all for me tonight. Thank you.
Dana, thank you so much. Appreciate those updates, and spread the news about that Medicaid and CHIP stuff, because that's very important for our community to be aware of. Thank you for that. Okay, now we will go to our esteemed district manager, Jesse Bodine, for his update, everybody.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jesse Bodine, District Manager of MCB4. Real quickly, very, very good, fun news to start off with. The MCB4 family has grown with the district office associate, Janine Pretente Youssef, with her husband, Mohammed, gave birth to a little baby girl named Camilla Melly Youssef yesterday. Yeah. So very quickly, MCB4 committee and full board meeting status. As we all can see, we are in person with a hybrid option. That's how we will be going forward. All members need to attend in person. Otherwise, contact the chair of the board and myself with an explanation of either disability or an extraordinary circumstance. When you are attending virtually, all members must have their cameras on. I'm speaking to the folks that are virtual who are going to be voting and speaking on the letters going forward tonight. You must have your camera on. Also, for the folks that are here who haven't done this in a while, you have a sign-in sheet. It's a tangible piece of paper. You must fill that out. You must put your name on it, or I do not know how you voted, and you will not be counted. I will collect those at the end. You can feel free to come up to me and say, "Here's my sign-in sheet." Feel proud. MCB4 August committee schedule, except for the BLP committee, all other committees will not be meeting in the month of August. Enjoy it. And that's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Jesse. BLP, as always, we are thankful for your 12-month of the year service every year going forward. Moving on to the chair's report, a couple of things I mentioned, the real catastrophe on 41st Street. Jesse and I today did receive immediate outreach and a briefing from the owner of the site. And Jesse has also been in communication with the relevant city agencies throughout the day. And I know that we'll certainly be receiving and sharing more information as it's had. But as I said, as of before this meeting, the reports were that nobody was killed in that accident, and that's quite remarkable. So I remain thankful for that. A couple of other updates on our task force and working groups. I'm happy to announce that tonight we're going to take up the bylaws. And so I'll stop giving updates about that working group. The bylaws were posted 30 days before this meeting, which is required by our current bylaws so that we can adopt our updated and amended bylaws, which you'll hear from Katie a little bit later on in the evening about that. Our Port Authority Working Group, that work continues with the port. There's been a lot of very productive and informative meetings lately. You hear these updates from me and that eventually this will work its way to our committees, but there are 7 of us that meet bi-weekly with the port to continue to address the issues we've been raising for almost a decade now as they march towards a more formal plan for the redevelopment of the facility. 12 FAR working group, that working group has concluded and made recommendations to the executive committee. That work will be ongoing, and we hope, my goal is to have something for everybody to review and vote on by the end of the year. I know that sounds out of sync with sort of typically how we do things, but there's a lot of discussion that was had at exec, and that's going to continue there. So stay tuned for stuff on that as that works its way forward. Marijuana working group, that work continues. We were happy to send out a really, I think, comprehensive update that from the board to the community that didn't just go to board members, that went to our entire listserv, letting them know about the things we knew were happening and what we can do about it. And I also want to announce that we've received our first official application for a state-issued license at a facility on 23rd Street between 6th and 7th. We're going to be convening sort of a small subset of that marijuana working group and figuring out how this is going to wend its way through our process, but stay tuned for more on that. This is the first official legal license, the kind we actually want to be talking about and addressing. Exactly. And finally, an update I mentioned, actually, it was at our executive committee meeting, not full board meeting. But Hudson River Park Trust has convened a task force about Pier 76, which is the 5.5 acre pier behind the Javits Center. You'll recall that this was historically a tow pound, and it took us 25 years to get that tow pound removed. And with great thanks to my immediate predecessor, Lowell Kern, who was dogged on the effort, that is now a 5.5 acre open space pier. Fast forward to today, the trust has convened a task force consisting of 4 community board 4 members, 2 from board 2 and 2 from board 1. So all the boards that abut the park, the advisory council, Friends of Hudson River Park, the trust of the board of directors, as well as all the elected officials, to begin to think about the steps that need to be taken to redevelop Pier 76 into a new green space in our backyard. So there is much to be discussed and much to be had. And what I can tell you is that we're going to be bringing stuff to the relevant committees, and it's actually going to touch, I think my estimation is that it would, of course, waterfront, parks and environment, transportation, land use, and housing. So stay tuned for work from feedback on that. The members will be, CB4 will be represented by myself, Jessica Chait, Roberta Barnett, and Matt Green on that committee. And we're excited to begin that work and stay tuned for updates in the fall. On small meetings, I mentioned the briefing we had today regarding the building on 41st and 10th of the incident that happened this morning. We also received a briefing from Silverstein on the proposed casino site on West 41st and 11th Avenue. And we had a briefing, actually all community boards had a briefing on the installation of congestion pricing as it relates to its footprint across the central business district. That was a sort of a very wide, it wasn't a CB4 specific meeting. It was for all the community boards and stakeholders as it relates to that earlier this month. There is a newly constituted group, the Garment District New York Forward Capital Improvement Program. The Garment District received a significant grant from the state of New York, which is really exciting. And Jesse is on the task force that's figuring out how they're going to put that money into place to make good change in the neighborhood. And then finally, a lot of folks came to speak about the proposed changes at the Chelsea campuses, the NYCHA campuses in Chelsea. That's not on our agenda tonight, but we do anticipate that working its way onto the relevant agendas. The assumption is that it will find itself on Chelsea land use and housing. So stay tuned for our agendas as they figure out their scope and how they're going to address this going forward. Nothing is set on that, but obviously we're going to be keeping a close eye on it and bringing it to the public for discussion as necessary. That's it officially on my report, but I noticed we are joined by a special guest in person. Our esteemed Borough President, Mark Levine, is here. So Mr. Levine, if you want to join us on the microphone over here so we can get you online and on camera. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Community Board 4. Wonderful to see all of you. It would be great to be with you in person anywhere, but I think I can now say you have the coolest in-person meeting place of any community board in New York City. You cannot beat this. I'm really, really happy to be here with all of you, although I'm sorry it's on the day at which we endured a really horrific situation on 10th Avenue and 41st Street. And I want to talk a little bit about that. I presume this has been well covered tonight. Has it been, Mr. Chair?
Only that Jeff and I had a briefing today.
Okay, well, first I'll say, I don't think we have been giving enough credit today to the work of the FDNY, which, yeah, did something extraordinary. First, they had a very fast response time and completely cleared the block before the crane fell. This is why there were very few serious injuries, because mostly the block was empty by the time the worst of the crisis occurred. Secondly, they managed to get up to 50 stories elevated fire. They did this essentially by going to the rooftops of neighboring buildings and using kind of intense hosing equipment, put up the fire. And in the end of the day, there were 6 injuries, all light, 2 firefighters, 4 civilians, which were basically construction workers. It could have been so much worse. So can we give a big round of applause to the FDNY and EMS workers on scene? A little bit about the incident, some of which I don't think has been in the news, but I've been on the phone all day today with fire commissioner and the buildings commissioner and et cetera. So it appears that what happened is that some engine oil in the engine of the crane cab ignited. And we need to understand why that happened. Then the crane operator immediately tried to put it out, took the fire extinguisher in the cab, wasn't successful, called 911, called 911 immediately, by the way, and then realized that he couldn't get it under control and began to evacuate. We need to understand why that cab ignited and why that engine ignited. Was it some sort of fault in the machinery? Was there an error made in the maintenance, or the way in which the oil was put in? Was the wrong person doing those jobs? We don't know the answers to any of those questions yet. That investigation is underway. And I certainly expect we'll have answers soon. I want to point out that it's not going to be a very quick resolution on that block. If you were hoping life would be back to normal there, as I understand it from the buildings commissioner, there's going to have to be 2 stages of essentially salvage work. First, they're going to bring in a smaller mobile crane to bring out what they can. But as was explained to me today, they're going to have to erect a comparable tower crane to get the damaged crane down. That will not be quick. And so I think you should expect life will not quite be back to normal on that block of 10th Avenue for a while. I'm sure you'll be on top of it, but relative to the kind of tragedy we could have been talking about today, I think this is a great relief. So I do want to move on to that topic, because we've been pushing a really exciting policy package that I think is very relevant to Community Board 4, working with allies in the council, including Councilmember Keith Powers. We are working on, for the first time, establishing standards on indoor air quality in New York City. This is, please applause for that. This is a big deal. This is the first time we've had a chance post-pandemic to look at this question. Turns out that we used to have buildings with windows that opened and lots of fresh air coming in and out. And something happened in the 1960s. We started to create hermetically sealed office buildings. Maybe they didn't know it at the time, but we know it now. That is not good for our health at any time. But in the midst of a pandemic, of a respiratory virus, it's got deadly consequences, which we confronted during COVID. Now that we're out of the crisis stage of COVID, we want to address this. So we put in a package of bills that will require air quality monitoring in public schools, in other city-owned and managed buildings, and even in certain cases in private residential and office buildings, including in Community Board 4. And these are monitors that will track CO2 content and solid particulate matter of the type that we dealt with during the terrible smoke incident from Canada, that will look at what's known as air change. This is how many times per hour the air circulates in an indoor space. This is extremely important when you're dealing with things like COVID. And we'll make that information publicly available. Now, in city-owned buildings, including schools, we're going to do this everywhere. In all the buildings that the city owns and operates, in classrooms and hallways and gyms and public spaces and offices. And we're going to make that, this legislation would make that information publicly accessible, including to parents and other members of the public. In the private buildings, it's a little more complicated, you can imagine. The private residential and office buildings. The plan there is to make these monitors mandatory when the building gets some sort of public subsidy, such as tax credits or favorable financing, and make it voluntary in other cases. But I think collectively, this will give us information that we have desperately needed and have never had. And it might not paint a pretty picture. We have to be ready for that. And that will be the beginning of setting standards, which hopefully will ultimately change the way that we build and maintain our buildings. I would love Community Board 4, which is renowned citywide for diving deep on complicated building and land use and housing issues, to look at these bills and to give us your feedback. And if you so choose to express support for this effort and to be involved in what will ultimately be multiple years of work to establish air quality standards, to implement them so that, God forbid, when the next pandemic hits, or if the next Omicron level COVID variant hits, or even if the next Canadian smoke, wildfire smoke hits us, that we'll be ready much more than we are today. So finally, I don't know if I'm over time, Mr. Chair, just to hit one very, very quick. I am over time. Okay, I'm going to save my discussion of AI for another day. I don't know whether you do.
We're timed here. That's it.
Okay. Thank you for having me, Community Board 4. I'll be back. Great to see all of you in person. Enjoy the rest of your meeting.
President. We really appreciate it very much. Okay, folks. So on to the business portion of the meeting and a couple of ground rules, if I may. Obviously, the microphones are essential so folks can hear us online as it relates to going through the items of the agenda. Co-chairs, I strongly encourage you to not address letters individually. We have a time limit here this evening, and I think that it can go to sort of are there questions generally, and we'll take letters in that order. But I am imploring you to not give an individualized summary for each and every letter on your docket. We can't control that, but I am imploring you to do so accordingly in the interest of time. Second to that, as it relates to questions, we're going to take in-person questions in the room first, and folks can line up at either respective side. I will then call on you and manage the question portion. We will then go to folks online, just so everybody understands that sort of order of operations. If you seek to speak again on an issue, we're going to exhaust everybody, and if time permits, we'll bring you back up. But that's what we want to frame out from the start. And also, just to be cognizant, the side conversations, you can't be heard if you're saying something from that table, even if you want to hear it online. So just flagging that for everybody. I know this is the last time this is last year. I wasn't even in person for it last year. I had COVID. Any questions on ground rules to begin with, online or in person? We're supposed to be out of here roughly around 9, shortly thereafter. So bearing that in mind, Inga. Thank you for flagging that. Bring your questions on the letters when it's relevant to that committee presenting. So the BLP will give up and give its remarks. Also a note on voting. We are still going to do our online style of voting, in that we will call the roll on votes at the end. Jesse, does that make sense? So that way we have one vote and we don't need to worry about taking votes per section. Yes, Joe, to your point, we still have the vote sheet, which everybody has to fill out their vote sheet. But for the record, we still have to call the roll like we do on our squares only meetings. Any other questions? Because it's been useful to get the eyebrows and the hints from everybody around the room right now. Thank you. So with that, I'm pleased to pass it over. And folks, remember, co-chairs, please go to the microphone, or if you're online, you'll present online. BLP, Frank and Bert, you're up first, please, this evening.
Whoa. Hi, everyone. Yes, I hear myself. Okay. We have at BLP more than half of the letters tonight, and we do not intend to go one by one by one. I just want to point out something. Most of our letters, if you've known in the past, we do deny unless stipulations are agreed to. Every once in a while, we have a letter that says deny, period. And if the SLA decides to go ahead and grant the license, we include the stipulations that we want. So two of the items on the agenda, item number 1 and item number 18, were both complete denials. And actually what happened, item number 1 went to a special SLA hearing already, and they granted the liquor license and accepted all the stipulations that we had inserted in the letter. Okay. Hope the same thing happens with 18. No, I don't hope the same thing happens with 18. I hope they deny it completely. In terms of the voting, I'd like to bring all of them except 17 as one vote, but we actually had the roll call. So if there's any questions about any of those, the only thing with item 17, which you've heard many people talk about tonight, on the stipulations that we included, we would like to, as a friendly amendment, we're friends with ourselves, add that the acoustical report did have mentioned sheetrocking on the walls, but would like additional sheetrocking on all the walls, not just the walls that the acoustical report mentioned. Sheetrocking on all the walls, that's further soundproofing, and a discussion between the applicant and the landlord of the building about safety cameras.
So two friendly amendments on item 17. Any questions on all BLP letters for Bert? Anybody in the room? Raul, you'll have to come up to the microphone. Or if you want to say it, I can repeat your question. Bert, can you summarize the question to answer it so folks online can hear that?
Was brought to our attention that sheetrock is not a completely soundproofing material, that we need to add something to the sheetrocking called a wonder board with the sheetrocking. So we'll add that. We'll add that friendly amendment.
Any other questions for BLP in the room? And online, any questions online for BLP? Great, thank you, Bert. Next.
I want to point out half the agenda is now passed.
Thank you for that, Mr. Co-Chair. Mr. Restuccio, you're up for housing.
We have it's a complicated letter in front of us, intersection of a cure for harassment that was not properly carried out and the legalization of a loft building. Any questions on this? It's quite technical and quite complicated.
Any questions for housing on their one letter this evening? Remarkable, in fact. In the room? Go ahead. You want to jump to the mic? Rachel, go ahead to the mic. But folks online.
Joe, just wanted a quick update on the bullet number 4 that was removed.
I actually had emailed you prior to the meeting. I missed that. Your comments have been incorporated now in the final version of the letter.
Funny to be talking this way. It wasn't that my comments were accommodated. The question was, I saw that bullet number 4 about HPD requiring the owner to temporarily relocate tenants to affordable unit at no cost to tenant. That was removed from when we last looked at it.
It's in the final paragraph. It got slipped out of the first paragraph and got put back in.
just
Yeah.
got relocated
It was-
within the document?
No, it was just an error when editing was done. It's
Okay.
going to be both in the beginning and the end.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions online for housing? Betty? We've got you. Unmute, please.
First, to thank whoever wrote this letter. It's monumental. And it's so thorough, tracking down the timeline on this. It's amazing. And I only had a comment of, is there there's so much that needs to be followed up on. Is there some plan on asking for a meeting or some procedure or approach? It seems like, I don't know, maybe I missed it when I read the letter.
We're asking our council member to set up a meeting. We can put that explicitly in here if it's not there now.
That would be good, I think. Thanks.
Thanks, Betty. Any other questions online? Final call in the room. Thank you, housing. Thank you, Joe. Up next on to present, WPE, Leslie.
Hi, everyone. I just want to mention that our co-chair, Marty DeCat, is online as well. We have 4 letters. There already have been some friendly amendments. I think, Joe, you were talking about adding some language for reference to the Astros dog run. That has been taken in. I think Paul Devlin mentioned one thing about composting for Matthew Palmer's, which is also taken as a friendly amendment.
Thank you, Leslie. Any questions for WPE, Leslie or Marty? In the room? Raul, if you can come to the microphone and ask that question so the online folks can hear.
First of all, thank you for taking the time to write these letters. I know it takes an awful lot of time. Actually, may I get my glasses?
And I think that mic seems to be louder on this side of the room, folks, if we want to bear that in mind going forward.
So like I said, thank you so much for taking the time to write these letters, Marty and Leslie. I just want to talk about item 21, the letter regarding the Title V permit for Con Edison, the corporate affairs. I would like to offer some friendly amendments to it. Say on lines 28 and 30, I was troubled by the words, "We applaud these changes," where the letter talks about converting from fuel oil number 4 to cleaner burning number 2 fuel. I'm troubled with that because there's no such thing as clean burning number 2 fuel. I think it would be better for us to realize that number 4 is extremely dirty and number 2 fuel oil is very dirty. So the conversion is really not accomplishing much.
Do you have a specific language recommendation?
No, I'm just mentioning my concerns. I can provide them later if that's
Take it. That was
if that's what you would prefer.
that Marty, if you wanted, that was Marty wrote that letter. So I can let him if you want.
Sounds like it's friendly though, right?
Yeah, we could take
Friendly.
it. I'm
Yep.
sure unless Marty has different.
I'd love to see the change in wording. I put it in that way because 2 is required in most situations. It is still a polluter. You're absolutely right, but it's significantly better than number 4. So my thinking was we applaud the changes because this better is better than the worse. Excuse me for the way I put that. 2 is much better than 4, even though it's not good.
Okay. So I can send you some language if you like later on.
Thank you.
Send the language to me, please.
I also was concerned by just the general tone of Con Ed, where it seemed like they were following the lead of New York State in terms of what changes they made. So they're only doing the minimum possible. So when we question them about why aren't they moving towards cleaner renewable energies, they say basically that New York State is not requiring it. So I'd like to see us mention that they shouldn't be waiting on New York State to do that they should be taking the lead themselves. The other thing that troubled me.
Before you move on to the next point, I thought that was in there already. There is a comment about Con Ed not waiting for 2050 to make its changes. However, if you have some change in wording in that section of the letter, please send.
Absolutely. Also, the word of climate change is upon us. We're really in a crisis now. It's a climate crisis that is upon us. It's not just change, it's a crisis. Anyways,
I don't mind adding that word. In your notes, send it to me.
Absolutely. The other thing that I think is important to mention is that this is a 5-year an application for a 5-year permit renewal. But the conversion from fuel number 4 to 2 means that they're going to be buying, their own words, tens of millions of dollars in the conversion to number 2 oil, which will include the purchase of equipment with a useful life of 25 years. What that tells me is that they're going to stay on number 2 for the next 25 years. That's of concern, and I think we should highlight that if they're going to be spending tens of millions of dollars, maybe they should be spending it on clean, renewable technologies now, not 25 years from now. I should point out that the letter perhaps should say that there's 97% of the steam station runs on natural gas, which is a dirty fuel oil.
May I?
The other 3%.
These just can, if I may, these all sound like very friendly things to enhance our position as a longstanding pro-environment and cleaning the environment board. So if there's like language to be shared that you think enhances the letter of our sort of existing position, I think we can trust that you'll have that exchange with the board. Do folks feel comfortable based on the tenor of Raul's sort of statements as it relates to the changes in the letter for us to sort of move on from that? Thank you very much. And also as a learning moment, a key point is to send changes like this in advance because they're friendly. And if they're not, then we can bring them up at the meeting. But thank you for this, Raul. And also A+ for reviewing letters in such finite detail. Leslie?
Is that none of the other letters? Questions on the other?
Any other questions in the room?
Great.
Online? Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Marty. Appreciate it. Up next, we have transportation. Christine and Jesse.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very good. Jesse went to bed because it is 2:20 in the morning, and for him it's 4:00 in the morning. So I will take all of those letters.
Christine.
So all of the letters I've received some very few modification for transportation. We will incorporate those changes, very small. I just want to bring out a letter on West 22nd Street. We have heard a lot of people talking about that. And one suggestion was made to make the request for a survey and a study more important. And I'm taking that as a friendly amendment. I'm sorry. The second thing is that a lot of people have asked for the language to be softer about removing bump outs. We had requests to remove 1 or 2 bump outs. Considering all the requests we heard, I would be ready to remove that language and make it a friendly amendment.
Any questions for Christine on specifically 22nd Street? David?
Yes. Hi, Christine.
Sorry.
Wolf cited very specific problems with some of the bump outs in terms of like a turning radius for a fire truck and bump outs that are directly opposed to each other, which create pinch points. You know, I'd hate to ride through one of those as a cyclist. And eliminating flat tops on the rocks so that they don't invite people to loiter. Do you think any of those could be incorporated into a friendly amendment?
Yeah, the flat top has already been installed in the letter. We have already asked for slanted, which was the turning radius. I mean, the DOT always check with the FDNY. So whatever they do, we know that it's going to work with the turning radius on FDNY. And then the face-to-face, we have mentioned that in the letter also, saying, make sure that we don't have a pinch point.
Okay, and are we calling for a study by DOT, a further study?
We are saying that they were supposed to give us a study, and where is it?
Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Apologies. You're up.
No problem. Hi, Christine. I have basically the same questions as David, and also there has not been a study. At the previous Transportation Committee meetings, it was strongly suggested by many of the residents of 22nd Street. There needs to be a study before this is implemented, before any of these changes are made. We still don't have a study. DOT's ignoring that. I think it was requested. And what happens when 20th Street becomes a parking lot and the police can't use their street? DOT needs to do a study. We can't just do this without a study. There needs to be a traffic study. There are still most of that block and adjoining blocks in Chelsea that are not happy with this because of the way it may affect traffic. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, just we are going to put the study, we're going to put stronger language in the study as requested.
Thanks, Inga. Thank you,
Before
Christine.
anything's
Rachel?
done.
Rachel?
That's what it is. That's what it says in the letter.
Thank you. Hi, Christine. Nice to meet you virtually. I just had a question about the Rosie's Theater Kits letter. It stated that the board found that the applicant did not meet the intent of the board's guidelines regarding the secondary street renamings. What were some aspects, would you enlighten us, that went into that decision making? Thank you.
Typically, we have been approving, first of all, typically we are very, very stringent, and the board policy about that is online on approving secondary names. And in that context, we've also been very specific about honoring more a person than an institution. And the request here was to request for an institution, not for a person. And that was one of the elements that went into the discussion.
Inga, is it the same question? A different, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm sorry. This is letter 24 regarding the receptacles for food placement.
Just so you know, this is ratification. The letter has been sent.
I just want to make sure, I know Christine has connections and as do you. I know, can we just make sure that if restaurants have a 2 a.m., if they say they can do it, 5 hours before pickup, that they give it a short term, so they don't say, okay, we're having pickup at 2 a.m. and they put it out at 8, make it like 2 hours before pickup. You know what I mean?
Inga, this is worse, because what it says is that the containers, empty or not empty, could be sitting in front of the restaurant for the whole day. And that's what we are objecting to.
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah. But if they do come back with something, can we not give them hours to set it there? You know how some of the restaurants now do with their trash, they put it out at 5 and it gets picked up at 4 a.m. So
Yes.
make sure tight window there. Thank you.
Good call out. Thank you. Any other questions for transportation in the room and online? Christine, I hope you'll stay to vote, but otherwise, thank you for being here and get some sleep. Up next is exec. We have 2 letters. Actually, the bylaws are coming out of exec and City of Yes. Jessica, we'll go to you first with City of Yes.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So a few changes to what you may have seen in the Dropbox, which was even updated over the weekend. So apologies for the multiple iterations on this. To start, the letter now begins with making clear that we are in support of the overall concept of the City of Yes carbon neutrality proposal, but with concerns. So essentially, yes, with conditions. And then did receive some friendly amendments. Want to just acknowledge that there's a tremendous amount of information that's reflected here. And we brought this to both, we did a joint meeting between Chelsea Land Use and Hell's Kitchen Land Use. We also received feedback and there was discussion at Transportation as well as WPE. We're not all necessarily going to see alignment on this, but this is a zoning text amendment. And so we really did, while showing our support for the changes and for carbon neutrality, wanted to make sure that we were clear on the zoning implications and the changes that might result and essentially be physically manifested. So I know there were some comments and questions about why are we focused on the aesthetics? Well, that is ultimately what zoning leads to. And so that is why there is that focus here while also showing our support. Just a few quick other friendly amendments, received some changes just to clarify some language about public versus commercial use, particularly around the transportation issues, and also just formatting. We're going to make an effort to make these sections, particularly beginning on bottom of page 2, more in alignment with the sections in the actual City of Yes zoning amendment proposal, which is 60 pages and very dense, but also quite beautiful and has a lot of information. So I encourage you to read it, but we will make an effort to streamline that a little bit more and be clearer in our recommendations for specific changes that we'd like to see.
Any questions for Jessica? Joe, actually come to this microphone because we know it works better if you don't mind.
I had done some changes to the prior version of the letter, so I spoke to Jessica earlier this evening, going through it, and we'll do the reformatting and some information. But my concern is on the solar panel installation, that we're not giving, here's what we want, as opposed to who our concerns are. So I would propose on line 35 that we talk about a minimum 10-foot setback be required for the solar panels on the roof. The issue here is in our special zoning districts, in our historic districts where we have height and setback requirements, we have to have something that respects that. So that's the amendment that I would propose.
Thank you, Joe. Jessica, I look to you and Paul and Kerry. I don't believe JD is with us this evening. This is coming out of land use and exec. Is that good? Okay. Thank you, Joe. Sanford?
Hello. That's loud. Okay. Anyways, so I have two concerns with this letter.
New member, introduce yourself so we know.
Hi, I'm Sanford.
Thank you.
New member. I have two concerns with this letter. I think one of them may be addressed by the most recently updated version of the letter. I'm not sure. I was just talking with Jessica about if what I'm looking at is the most recent version. But so my first concern is that when I read this letter, it does read to me like a deny letter. Maybe that was a misinterpretation, but it did not feel like a let's go forward with this. And I'm not sure what the solution to that is, but I really did like that if you would ask me like a reading comprehension test, is this supporting or rejecting the proposal? I would have said this is a deny. So that I'm not sure if that's adjusted by the most recent version of the letter, but I did want to put that out there. My other concern is the specific rejection of the idea that public review should be waived on some green infrastructure projects, which, as I understand it, is a pretty important part of the City of Yes carbon neutrality proposal. And I think that is a significant barrier to encouraging developers to do kind of these semi-public goody projects. And at the very least, I would like to see more clarity on what kinds of things that we really do insist that there should be public review on, and what other things can be kind of sort of get cookie cutter, either staff level LPC approval or just approval from DOB or whatever other regulatory agencies are involved if it's not a historic district. But anyways, I think that is actually a really important part of the City of Yes proposal, is this idea of sometimes it does deter sort of positive green infrastructure projects to require that they go through the entire process of public review, even for sort of relatively minor or cookie cutter, just solar panels on the roof type projects. And I did want to call that out as a big concern I had with the letter.
Thank you very much for that. Jessica, I see Carrie's hand. Jessica, do you want to respond, or Carrie, are you responding to this comment?
No, actually, I was responding to Joe's comment, and I think that the current setback zoning, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is 6 feet from the edge of the buildings, the facade. So I didn't know if that was a better compromise to say 6 feet instead of 10 feet.
I think I think we throw it out and see what happens, and we'll go from there with that. But we can also figure out what the specific is from here, Carrie, if that's okay. We never received the feedback from the agency to specifically understand what the setback was going to be for the new city of Yes. So I think that's where we're coming from, of giving something specific.
Yeah, I think that they were suggesting no setback.
That's why we want to put a number out there.
Correct.
Jessica, did you have something?
I just wanted to respond, I think the first of your two comments, I think the opening paragraph will make that at least immediately signal, and we're happy to take any line edits that we can look. We were trying to thread a lot of needles, including concern that was raised, but can appreciate that if the tone swung too far, we can bring it back, since this is an approval with conditions. So happy to take specific line edits on that. For the second point, I would say we're very concerned about the erosion of public review, particularly as it pertains to special and historic districts. And I think we want to remain very committed to that. And maybe we focus on that element as opposed to the general, and therefore really focus our attention on the issue that we're concerned about as relates to our district, which is historic and special. And I'm seeing some yeses from over here. Hopefully that can assuage some of the concerns. And I know Paul and I spoke about that. So.
Thank you, Jessica. David?
Yeah, hi. This is, it's kind of a late to the game friendly amendment proposal. As I was rereading the letter before tonight's meeting, it occurred to me there are a lot of historic buildings outside of the historic district that we might hope to have landmarked in the future, and that probably wouldn't visually support these arrays of solar panels very well. So I'd like to make a friendly amendment that, as well as citing buildings within historic districts, which already have restrictions imposed by the landmarks rules, that we have sort of an exception for 19th century buildings, period, in Chelsea. That would include row houses, for example, early Greek revival row houses that are not landmarked yet. So that they don't have these arrays of solar panels on top that would seem very incongruous. That's not a huge amount of real estate. So that would be my friendly amendment, to say that buildings from the 19th century would have the same kind of treatment as landmark buildings.
And certainly the co-chairs and my co-chair should feel free to join me in this, but what I would offer is that I think we have been very adamant that the wholesale approach, which the city of Yes offers right now, is not appropriate, and that there needs to be specific application in districts. And I think we can find a way to cite in here that, as an example, there may be historic buildings or buildings of historic nature that require special attention. But I just don't know if we know enough to call this out specifically. But again, welcome other co-chairs' perspective on this. Okay, Paul's saying he agrees. I don't know, Carrie, if you have anything you'd like to add.
Yeah.
Or we can hear other comments and
Got a
then see
couple
where
more
we go.
comments. Leslie and then Dolores.
I just wanted a clarification. What is the setback now? 6? No, not in, yes, now. Now, like, what is the setback rule now?
In historic districts?
Yeah,
Or-
because you said you want 10, right? That's the number, but what is it now, like as we speak?
I think it's 6.
It's 6. So, okay, so we're asking for more than it is now. I understand, but it's 6 now. I'm just curious why we're asking for more. So just to put it in, just to frame it, is the reason why they're saying 0 is because there are a lot of requirements for buildings to hit different, environmental benchmarks.
Yeah.
And there are, and there will be in the future. So they're trying to make zoning just a little bit easier for a lot of these buildings to put more solar panels. And I know WPE recommended that we have no setbacks. I understand land use said yes setback, so we would come to an agreement in the middle. So I don't know why we're going over though current. Like I understand no might not be appropriate, but why are we going all the way to 10 and not keeping it at current?
I think that we should know whether it's 6 or not, and stick with the current, if nothing else. Joe?
Yeah.
I guess the main thing here is that we did not get feedback, right? I actually do this. I get studies for solar panels on roofs. Many buildings are not even suitable because of their physical location within the district, period. So this is something that is a wholesale approach like Jessica spoke about. I would recommend we put in 10, knowing that we can then, in the negotiation with many other communities, arrive at something that is reasonable, whether that is 6, whether that is 5, whatever it is, you have to put in something as opposed to nothing.
Right. I just don't think we should go further hamper the attempts to.
I don't think.
And wait, hold on. And as far as you were saying to put solar panels, you're right. Some are not suited, but that's a permit process. Every solar panel is permit. It has nothing to do with zoning. That's an individual permit process. That would be okay for.
No, it's not a permit process. It's a feasibility process for return. And actually is what you do a study to see whether it works in your building. But I just want to note that in general, we have to put a number in, knowing that there's going to be a public discussion. That's all. And I chose 10 because we in our special zoning districts have height limits. And that would mean that we'd be 15 feet over every height limit immediately. We have to figure out how to do it.
I understand. I'm just saying it's more than they're trying to scale back. And you know what I mean? We're actually adding more than is current. And I'm just saying meet in the middle and just have it the way it is.
Sorry, Leslie. Are you comfortable if we find the actual number for setback, that if it's 6, we'll put 6 in the letter?
I think that's just fine.
The fact is, we want to make sure we're putting a real number.
We want to make sure we're putting
in the letter.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And not
Then yeah.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks, Leslie. Dolores.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. I beat her up for skipping me. So Jessica and the rest of the co-chairs, I appreciate the accommodating tone that we're trying to thread the needle. But one real concern is the public process is extremely important in every one of the changes that we want to think about making. And I think the fact that we are a community board, we are part of the public process, we should not be lightening the language around advocating for ensuring public review of changes that impact our community. So I know that you were mentioning you'll think about softening that language. I'm very concerned about doing that period, but also setting a precedent where we are not considering the impact to this community for a cookie cutter citywide application of zoning that we don't know what the unintended consequences are to our community.
Thanks, Dolores. Roberta?
So I did want to make a suggestion following from Leslie's comment to have the letter just say conform with existing setback requirements rather than providing a number. If you'd like to provide a number, by all means, but linguistically that might actually be easiest in case we get a technical detail wrong. I did also want to confirm what the full process or engagement process will be for the City of Yes text amendments, if this is the sort of end of the road for community boards, or if there is a further process for engagement. Is this we're saying a very lukewarm yes and leaving it, or is there more to be said? And if there's more to be said, I think I would feel more comfortable with a letter that's that pushes back a little bit more. But if it's the end of the road, I do think it's important to really focus on being supportive of helping these changes get passed to the city council. It's going to be really important for renters and homeowners to have pathways to make building improvements that allow them to meet local law 97 requirements and to not be penalized financially and to have healthier and safer homes. So I did want to clarify that point on the process. Thank you.
Oh, do we have someone back?
Hold on. Did you want to?
Well,
to her comments?
I heard you. I think we can get there. So thank you for bringing that up. In terms of, I actually really like conforming language, and we can discuss offline, but I think that can be something that's integrated. As it relates to the timeline has changed fairly regularly. And maybe Jesse, Jesse has his hand up.
But I do think there's a hearing scheduled.
Yeah, so I mean, we're at the beginning of the EULA process. It's the community board comment period is just ending. We'll be submitting our letter to, the city, Department of City Planning and the city council, and it's a EULA. So we're gonna, as we always do, we're gonna fight or not fight, but we'll continue to negotiate or fight till the very last vote at the city council. And so, I mean, that's the process. So if that's helpful.
Thank you. And Sanford, I'm going to go to folks because I want to get through everybody to speak for the first time. So we're going online now. Marty?
Thank you. This has been a focus on the zoning process, and you've kept your comments to that. It's unfortunate, I think, that you should have been much broader and worried about the carbon footprint process in that context. I think the numbers have become too specific. I know that I just learned really that this is the end of the process for us, which is disappointing because we're trying to do policy on so many issues here. Setbacks, no setbacks, height, no height. And some of us, I'm one of them, feel that setbacks shouldn't be happening. The number should be 0, and that height depends on the building and the circumstance. There is no statement in this letter about what the process should be for individual buildings, and I would like to see at least that added. I'm sorry that we can't focus more on the environmental issues rather than simply the zoning issues. The environmental issues become important. The more solar there is, the better. Our landscape is going to change, and we should get used to that. So that's not in the letter, and I wish it were.
Thank you, Marty. Sanford, new comment on this letter? Otherwise, we're going to close this out. So go right ahead.
Okay, I'll try and keep it brief. My comment is, I think I'm not questioning the value of public review in many circumstances, but primarily in relatively straightforward green infrastructure projects, such as solar panels. And that's not how it's articulated in the letter. There's not sort of a specific call out for the type of project. And I don't know if there's room for an amendment of some sort, but that is what I would like to see, is a discussion of, and I mean, I have not read the 60 pages of City of Yes carbon neutrality, much less the accompanying LPC rules. But I think that would be, if there is room for a compromise amendment, it would be around in what situations, maybe not in a historic district, but in some circumstances, we are willing to say, just go ahead with the project. It's very simple. And I think that could really make an impact on even getting a few more % buildings in the city to get solar panels would be very impactful in reducing our total carbon emissions.
Yeah, I actually think we can do that because we don't review all solar panel requests and applications now or projects. And so if we just want to affirm that we still think that that is appropriate, I think that's not really, I mean, that is, I think that's
part of the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe, did you want to say something new?
Joe?
There is no public review for solar panels today, and there will be none in the future. We're not asking for a public review for solar panels. And Marty,
except in the areas, except in historic and special districts.
but Marty, we have a zoning text amendment in front of us, and unfortunately, it's August. And all the things you've talked about, there is no flexibility. It is one size fits all. You said it a number of times. If in fact it was in this document, that's why we would have no conditions. However, it's not in this document. It's a blanket. So that's why we're trying to come up with something that pulls it all together.
And I think to Joe's point, this has been formally taken up at 3 committees, both land use, exec, with recommendations for transportation and WPE. It's pretty thorough. I think Leslie said it or Jessica said it, not everybody's going to be happy. I think that that's a reasonable summation of the place that we're at right now. I also want to share an anecdote of the fact that this was already taken up at Borough Board, which is the monthly meeting of all community boards convened by the Borough President. And it was my first ever abstention because we didn't vote yet. And Gail Brewer thought it was the funniest thing in the world that I, as chair of Board 4, esteemed for its positions, wasn't able to take a position. So Thank you, everybody, for your comments on this letter this evening. Thank you, Jessica, for presenting, and to the committees on the work here. We'll move this forward, and as Jesse said, continue to be heard at every step of the way, given this is a ULERP process. I also want folks to know that this is not the only City of Yes text amendment working its way through the system. This is one of 3 the mayor is putting forth, so you're going to hear about other City of Yes initiatives. Right now, the City of Yes for economic impact is working its way through the public review, a different sort of hearing public review process. So don't be surprised next year when you hear about another City of Yes initiative. It's not this one, it's the other ones being put forth. So just bear that in mind as we will continue to hear more about these initiatives. Next up on the on our exec agenda, the bylaws working group. They convened over the past 6 months. This is Katie was the co-chair of that, along with Bob Benfato, passing it to her for a high-level review of what that is right now.
Hey, everyone. So yes, we're all done. I want to thank everybody who served on the committee. So it was Bob and I co-chairing it, and Candace and Frank and Roberta and Alice and Bert. So lots of word nerds, and, you know, Frank's another lawyer. So it was, we talked about a lot of possible changes to the draft bylaws, but we actually made very few substantive ones. So we just, we reviewed the entire document because it hadn't been reviewed for several years to see what might need to be changed. And as you saw, if you had a chance to go through all the pages of it, there are, some word changes and a couple of things got updated, but we found that they were actually very consistent with city and state rules. One of the things that I think I had previewed for the executive committee that we did discuss possibly changing was term limits. We thought maybe we would just have the executive committee appointments be for 2 years instead of 1. And that way we wouldn't have to go through the whole nominations process each year. But we actually discussed this at great depth and discovered that that would not make sense, we thought. So that's why that change is not there. So so we actually didn't change a whole lot substantively. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions on the bylaws? Just to reiterate the technicality, these were released for public review more than 30 days in advance of tonight's meeting. That way we can vote on our bylaws. Obviously, changing the bylaws is not something we take lightly. I think the last time this was done was 2008. So any questions for Katie on the bylaws? And online? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Katie. That concludes exec. We also have a new business letter coming out of Chelsea Land Use, of which Jessica will run us through a letter to LPC. Jessica?
Great. Hi again. This letter is for 115 West 18th Street. It was taken up at Chelsea Land Use. We unfortunately did not have quorum at that meeting, which is why it's coming to you as new business today. And we think this is actually pretty clear cut. This is a Ladies Mile Historic District building. They did work that wasn't approved. They got guidance, ignored it, and now they're coming back to ask for permission to do the thing. And we're saying to do the thing they already did. We're saying, no, do what we told you to do the first time. So pretty clear. And we did have consensus. Yes, there was full consensus, and we would have voted this out had there been quorum.
The opportunity to do so. Any questions on the new business letter coming before us this evening? In the room, online, hearing none. It is time to vote. Ladies and gentlemen, we love voting. And what's going to happen is our co-secretaries are going to call the roll. You're going to announce I on all and no on number 2. Make your vote as simple as possible. If you're voting present, not eligible. So to take things as they are, right? I'm I on all, I'm P&E on number 16. To sort of narrow out the individual concepts so we can just sort of take that on the whole. Separate from that, online folks, please fill out your vote sheets online and submit those virtually. In the room, you have what's called a piece of paper in front of you. Please use a pen and fill that out so that Jesse can collect those and we can make sure the vote is calculated and recorded. That way it also counts for everybody being here tonight. We had no changes to the agenda mid-meeting, no tables or nothing. So this is going to be a straight roll call. We do not have a ULERP, so it's singular. And so with that, I pass it over to Katie to call the roll, and Roberta will record it.
All right. So we are starting with Ted.
That's all.
Yay. Roberta.
It stayed on 38.
Oh, and yes, I've been asked if I can repeat what someone says so that everyone can hear it. Roberta abstained on number 32 and yes to the rest. Christine, are you still awake? If you're speaking, you're on mute.
She's here.
See you.
Yes to all.
Thank you. Bodine, Gwen. Gwen.
Yes.
Okay, so to repeat, that's yes to all except no on number 2 and number 29. Leslie, belt it out. What about 17?
Abstain on 17, yes to all.
Thank you. Viren, was he here?
I didn't see Viren tonight. No.
Okay. Jessica. Thank you. She said
Yes to
yes to all. Is Dale here?
No.
Okay. Aurora.
Yes
Aurora's
to
on.
all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aurora.
Marty.
Yes to all, no on 32.
Got it. Thank you. Paul.
Yes to all.
Paul said yes to all. Tina DeFelicitano. I can't say her last name. And what was the last part? Oh, and there's a question about how to get the fabulous CB4 caps.
Yes.
And she said yes to all. Okay, Pete Diaz. Is Pete here? Oh, hey. Said yes to all. Wendy Gonzalez.
Wendy is not with us this evening.
Okay, Matt.
Matt Green is not with us this evening.
All right, now there's, oh, and Jesse is
Greenwald is not with us this evening.
not with us this evening. All right, are you?
The G's have left us.
Okay, Candace. Candace said yes to all. Let me get to my next page. David Haluka
Yes to all.
said yes to all. Frank.
Yes to all.
Frank said yes to all. Josephine. Josephine said yes to all. Yadira.
Yadira is no longer on the board.
Oh, well, sorry, Yadira. Okay, Harry.
Yes to all.
Yes to all. Thank you. Is Lowell here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, hello, Lowell.
Hi. No on 26, no on 33, yes to the rest.
26 and 33, yes to the rest. Thank you. Oh yeah, Blake is no longer on the board.
You got to know this.
I got an old list. All right. Jesse's playing with me this evening. Okay, Bert. Yes to all. Bert said yes to all. Chris. Abstention on 17, yes to the rest. Betty.
Yes to all.
Yes to all. Sarah's right, gone.
Sarah's not.
All right, Tina Nelson. Tina said yes to all. Mike Noble.
Yes to all.
Thank you. JD.
Not here.
Oh, not here. Maria. Thank you. Alan. Abstain on 26, yes to the rest. Brad.
Not here.
Okay. Joe. Thank you. Sabrina's not on this. Dolores. Said yes to all. David Solnick.
Not here.
Not here.
Not here. Me, yes to all. Charles. Charlie, sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, you're here.
yes to all and save me a hat.
Got it, Joe.
Will do.
All right, and Kit's not on here. Hector. Yes to all. Is he still on right now? Okay. He's no longer on. Okay. David Warren. Okay, and he's abstaining on 17, saying yes to the rest. Leslie?
Nope.
Oh, yeah, sorry, wrong Leslie. I already asked you, and Alice. 28, you said? 20. You're abstaining on 17 and 20, and yes to the rest.
Yeah.
And then we have more.
Yeah,
Wait,
hold
there's
on.
more.
Yeah, and we're gonna add the new member
Start the ones that you need to call if you want to call them or.
here.
Yep.
Okay, so Maha,
Here,
not here, sorry, Wilson,
not here.
Lisa,
I didn't see Lisa.
Yes.
I didn't see, no.
maybe not, okay. Raul. I'm sorry, Raul, I can't hear you.
So I heard abstain to all except one, except yes on 1, 18, 19, 33. 21 and 22. So yes to 18 to 22 and 33. Abstain on the rest.
Got it.
We'll clarify that on your vote sheet, sir. So please fill that out.
Okay, where am I? Rachel. Yes to all, thank you. Stanford. 32, you
No on 32.
got it, thank you. Gregory. No on 29. Okay. And Rodney. Yes to all. Okay, and then last but not least, Jeffrey.
Proudly yes to all. So.
Sorry.
Oh, wait, we don't
Inga.
have Inga, sorry. Inga. Yep. Yep,
So abstain on 20, no to 26, yes to the rest.
got it.
Hold on, please. Just know it's before 9 p.m. Thank you all so much for being here. Tomorrow night, join us for again, another social in person at the Hartley House on 46th Street. Also come a little early for land use training if you can. It's really nice to see people, and I know folks are also traveling, and happy summer. Thank you all for being here. Dolores with the motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. And stellar time.
Congratulations on having a really clear sound tonight. I appreciate that. And congratulations to the two of you for setting that up.